This is Tom Barnhart, and we are in our weekly interview series, GBS Director Interviews, and we are with Andrzej Pacek from previously from NatWest, Poland, and we are having a 10-minute conversation with you about the NatWest story in Poland. It's very interesting. It's a bit different interview this week because you guys have recently closed the operation in Poland. So, Andrzej, if you would take us through a little bit of some of the history of a bit yourself, but also NatWest's journey in Poland, but particularly focus on the changes that have gone through quite big disruption. Other GBSs have also sometimes top line or big picture disruption. And tell us a bit about that and some lessons learned, if you would, from your perspective.
Thank you, Tom, for the invitation in the first place, and hello, everyone. It's an opportunity to really reflect on what actually happened. So right after the moment when indeed I left NatWest after lengthy process of liquidation. Just to give you kind of a flavor of what effectively happened. So I joined ABN AMRO, then acquired by Royal Bank of Scotland, then rebranded to NatWest back in 2007. So I had a chance to be in that center journey from around 100 people to 2,000, then scaled down to 1,600, then operating in that scale for many years. Up to the moment in time when NatWest had to make a decision what the global footprint is for foreseeable future, giving also the shift in the strategy. So when Royal Bank of Scotland acquired ABN AMRO, obviously the main purpose was that to build up a global international network in a universal bank. After 2008 and the crisis, it changed. And over the years, when we are very busy with restructuring of the bank to put it back to the healthy capital shape and then recover trust of the customers. Also, the idea of that strategy was changing, and at the moment it's mainly focused on the UK market. So you can imagine that when you design the bank for the global operation and design the bank for domestic bank, it's completely different setup.
Yeah, so just to remind people as well, NatWest, of course, was, let's say, a victim of the crisis in 2008 dramatically, and then huge restructuring. So what you're referring to, Andrzej, is that along the way, NatWest Group shifted its strategy to abandon the whole global expansion and focus back on the UK domestic. And then that had implications for you guys here in Poland running the GBS operations of NatWest.
Yes, that's correct. That's in a nutshell. And back in 2003, 2004, when we are seeing that, those changes are coming, we started to ask ourselves what potentially it may mean for us. And as we are already kind of heavily embedded in the global organization, so we are not working as a kind of BPO, working on very narrow process and delivering on the SLAs. So effectively, we were part of the organization. So we also started to ask what's the kind of future outlook, what's the long-term scenario. So we as local leaders also have that confidence how to lead our people, how to develop the capabilities, and how to steer and navigate in that and that reality. And then after the strategic review, actually we are given the answer, and the group decision was to exit Poland. And also there was
and that was in June 2024, I understand.
Yeah, that was when it was announced. Yes. So we are in June 2024 when I remember exactly that was June the 19th. So most probably that will be the day that I will remember.
I imagine for a long time.
When
you and many other people in Poland.
Yeah, when I had to stand on the stage and announce the group decision, and even that announcement was already reflection on the liquidation strategy that we took and agreed with the group. So actually we asked for the ownership of the outcome, and we wanted to deliver that change to ourselves rather than wait for some remote teams delivering that change to us. So actually I announced it to our colleagues in Poland, and also we were very active participant in the execution of that process. And actually that process defined incoming 18 months for many of us. For some colleagues, they already were notified that they will be leaving NatWest in 3 months' time, other in 6, 9, 12, 18 months. So we already at that announcement date, we were able to give people clarity down to individuals. So classic question that everyone, what's in it for me or how it's going to impact me, was answered on day one.
Yes.
And I believe that was most probably one of the biggest contributor to the success, how smooth that process was and why it went so well for all parties involved, including people impacted.
So what's the lessons learned from your perspective running that operation, and you've actually technically closed it down last month, like end of March this year, right? So tell us a bit about lessons learned from your perspective as a manager, the director, things that might apply to other people that are running operations.
Yeah, so in the first place, be brave and ask the questions, even if you're afraid that you may hear something that you don't want to hear. Still, I prefer ugly truth than beautiful lie. Yes. In that way, you may control your future and your destiny, right? It's super difficult to predict the future, but we can always control our attitude to what is happening. Mm-hmm. And on that occasion, through that ownership of the outcome, that gave us also an opportunity to own that destiny. Mm-hmm. And within that liquidation program, we had fully sanctioned by the group one stream that was called Future Ready, that was focused on impacted colleagues. And there was a series of many streams. There was like 12 different streams. I would just name a couple, like upskilling, reskilling, getting people having access to the other employers on the market. So mm-hmm. We organized over 50 open days within NatWest. And when we looked at the reports in LinkedIn where people are going, to a large extent, they were going to the companies who made an effort to come to us and introduce themselves to people who will be leaving NatWest in 6, 12, 18 months. Mm-hmm. That gave a lot of comfort for both parties. And as a result, when we look at these stats from those 1,600 colleagues impacted by the announcements in June 2024, yes, around 3/4 had a job elsewhere on the next day after exit from NatWest.
Yeah, incredible.
So that was quite smooth transition from, obviously, that was a stressful event. Yes. But that future ready job was to make a best possible experience to the last day, including ourselves. Right. For around 80 colleagues. And that end date was, March 31st this year. So, a week ago.
Right. Great. Well, interesting. So then what, in terms of the operations and your plans, you mentioned about AI. You said you had a bit more time to focus on AI. Any comments on that? Any comments on what your next move is going to be as well? Because you've got tremendous experience, and now you have a kind of open door at many places. What do you think your move might be for the next period of your career?
Yeah, so we're creating those opportunities for colleagues, but also as leaders, we got to think about ourselves. So for me, whenever I had some spare time, I wanted to focus on something that is much, much closer to my background. I'm a computer scientist, yes, running cybersecurity functions for many years. Then I became a GM, but that's a moment in time maybe to get back to the roots, because I was tired with all the AI media haste and news, and it was super difficult to judge what is true, what is not. So I said, if I have that capability to try things hands-on, I will do it. And that was something that I'm doing. And also other colleagues betting on that scenario. We organized kind of a mastermind, doing small projects together to play with that outside kind of core delivery of the services that we're still doing, so to avoid the problems with data privacy, because effectively we didn't want to play in this new untested territory with the banks and customers' data. So we are doing that. Also, whenever we discuss within business services industry what is relevant for the future is this kind of mindset shift. So we are no longer expected to deliver activities, services, processes up to the SLA and define criteria. We need to be part of the business and build up the value of that business. And as a result, the services complexity of that and roles are going higher in the value chain, but also it means that, whenever something happening with the core business, we may be impacted as well. So that's part of that game. And so that kind of process of liquidation, gave us, I may say, opportunity, right? Because we were forced to that, but we had to kind of walk the talk. It's not just the talk. Right?
Sure, you were dealt a certain hand. You got to play the hand you get dealt well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right.
And I believe that when we were looking at the kind of next step for many colleagues, they met that ambition to go higher in the value chain. So when they were going for jobs elsewhere, they were able to make that kind of as a promotion and go to the more exposed roles that they used to have at NatWest, and they use that transition time to prepare themselves for that journey. So, looking from that, if you put kind of business aside, that effectively NatWest Poland ceased to exist a week ago, then the journey of the capability that we managed to build over time is not over. So that was spread across the market.